Hey y'all, it's Kim. So I was gonna watch Lefty's losing it here in just a minute, but I wanted to bring up a few things. So of course, she on Lefty's losing it. She's talking about Rosie O'Donnell leaving United States over Trump, and what she says is Project 2025. I mean, I don't know much about this Project 2025, but even if Trump isn't a part of it, why would some of these things be bad? Let's just read just the front page of the website. I know if you hate America, it's not going to make too much of a difference for you, but it says building for conservative victory through policy, personnel, and training, and then get the facts. It says Project 2025 is an effort by the Heritage Foundation, not Donald Trump. Fact check. It says Project 2025 is a historic movement brought together by over 100 respected organizations from across the conservative movement to take down the deep state and return the government to the people. Its mandate for leadership, the conservative promise, published in April 2023, is a product of more than 400 scholars and policy experts from around the country. The book offers a menu of policy suggestions to meet our country's deepest challenges and put America back on track. I mean, why would these things be bad? Look at the bullet points. It says secure the border, finish building the wall, and deport illegal aliens, de-weaponize the federal government by increasing accountability and oversight of the FBI and DOJ, unleash American energy production to reduce energy prices, cut the growth of government spending to reduce inflation, make federal bureaucrats more accountable to the democratically elected president and Congress, and then improve education by moving control and funding of education from DC bureaucrats directly to parents and state and local governments, and ban biological males from competing in women's sports. I mean, I'm not really sure why those things would be bad, but like I said, if you hate America, I guess that's just what it is. And so this guy here, Colin Rugg, I'm not sure who he is. I think I've seen his name several times before, but it says Justin. Rosie O'Donnell says she fled the United States with her non binary child because of Project 2025. It says Project 2025 is even worse than she imagined. It says LMAO, I have no regrets. Not a day has gone by that I thought it was wrong or was the wrong decision. I knew after reading Project 2025 that if Trump got in, it was time for me and my non binary child to leave the country. And I'll link this in the description. This is a PDF of this stuff. It has a copyright on it, so I don't want to like read to it, but it just says mandate for leadership, the conservative promise. I guess if you're a liberal, that would be threatening, but let's see what she says here, and then we'll look at a few like comments about the Project 2025 on X, and then watch Lefty's losing it. So let's see here. Let me see if I can play this.
Rosie, thanks so much for joining us. As you know, some people entertain the idea of moving abroad after the 2024 election. You actually did it. Tell us about your experience so far, and do you have any regrets?
I have no regrets. Not a day has gone by that I thought it was the wrong decision. I was welcomed with open arms. I knew after reading Project 2025 that if Trump got in, it was time for me and my non-binary child to leave the country. And although I was not one of the celebrities who announced that that's what I would do, I made the decision within my family and my therapist, and should he win, and then when he did, we made the plan into action, and we were gone before he was inaugurated.
You've been a longtime critic of this Trump administration and a target of President Trump for that matter as well. What has it been like watching the last few months unfold from abroad?
It's been heartbreaking, I have to tell you. I knew that if I was in the United States and watched him destroy the country and the Constitution and really pay no mind to any of the laws that the founders stood by and that our country stands for as a beacon of shining light and freedom for the rest of the world, that should he do what the Heritage Foundation said he was going to do in that Project 25 that we were going to be in big trouble. And it's as bad as they promised and even a little bit worse. And it's been heartbreaking and personally very, very sad to watch.
Oh boy, this lady's nuts. Let's see here. Let's look at some of this. There's plenty of this. Let's go back up to the top. Because I typed in 2025. It says, today's the 21st of April. I'm not in chains and haven't been out in the fields picking cotton yet, per Project 2025. Trump hasn't declared martial law yet, just sending illegal immigrant criminal MS-13 gang members back to El Salvador. Where are my white supremacists at? And then this is another just post about Project 2025. It says, Scoop, a teacher at Lake Brantley, was caught on video ranting to students about Trump, repeating MSM lies about Project 2025, compared Trump to Hitler, and suggested Trump will take everyone's rights away. The principal was made aware and immediately put the teacher on leave. Let's see. This is, of course, a dissenting whatever video. It says, here's the Project 2025 summary everyone needs to see. If this does not terrify you, you have not been paying attention. So this is what they're claiming it is.
If you haven't heard about Project 2025, stop what you're doing and watch this. Project 2025 is a plan for Trump's second term that would transform America into a far-right Christian nationalist militarized state. You can read the nearly 1,000-page plan for yourself at project2025.org so you can know I am not exaggerating. 3 key facts. Number 1, a mass firing purge that Trump authorized before the 2020 election but never got to act on is at the center of Project 2025. Now, more than 2 million Americans across the country are part of the federal civilian workforce. Scientists at scientific agencies, doctors at the FDA, accountants at the IRS. We want experts doing jobs that require expertise. But more than 50,000 of them would be fired under this plan and replaced with MAGA loyalists who would use the power of these agencies to fundamentally change the nature of America without needing to involve Congress. Number 2, Project 2025 is a far-right Christian nationalist agenda. By page 5, they're already proclaiming pornography should be outlawed. The people who produce and distribute it should be imprisoned. Educators and public librarians who purvey it should be classed as registered sex offenders. This would be alarming enough if they were talking about actual pornography, but their definition spans anything that acknowledges the existence of LGBTQ people. They claim on page 451 that families comprised of a married mother, father, and their children are the foundation of a well-ordered nation and healthy society, thereby designating queer people.
Okay, like, I'm not seeing the problem, but I guess because I'm white and a Christian and a patriot, I mean, I'm not really seeing a problem here. Not seriously, I'm not seeing a problem at all. Okay, if that's their justification, but like I said, if you're a far left lunatic and you are, you know that you're living, I guess, outside of those rules, which I'm sure it's based on biblical principles, which our founding was based on biblical principles. Yeah, it's going to make you mad. Got it. Okay. Anyway, I didn't even want to keep going on that rabbit trail because that's just dumb. I mean, to me, it's dumb, but whatever. Let's watch Lefty's losing it. Since the Project 2025 stuff was brought up, that's why I was bringing it up. So let's see.
It's time for Lefty's losing it. Rosie O'Donnell. We're going to talk about Rosie again. She continues to make a fool of herself in TV interviews, and I guess since fleeing America due to an incurable case of TDS, her full-time job is doing these daft interviews where she says stuff like this.
I knew after reading Project 2025 that if Trump got in, it was time for me and my non-binary child to leave the country. And although I was not one of the celebrities who announced that that's what I would do, I made the decision within my family and my therapist and should he win. And then when he did, we made the plan into action, and we were gone before he was inaugurated.
Yes, she fled with her non-binary child to a country that is more socially conservative than much of America, certainly more than the blue city she fled. Rosie is not that bright, it seems. Perhaps she missed the fact that Ireland's abortion laws are pretty strict, only freely available in the first trimester, or the fact that fewer than 1 in 5, 17% in fact, of Irish folk agree with laws allowing a person to change their birth certificate when they self-identify as the opposite sex. But Rosie doesn't care about those sorts of facts. She's obsessed with Project 25.
It's been heartbreaking, I have to tell you. I knew that if I was in the United States and watched him destroy the country and the Constitution and really pay no mind to any of the laws that the founders stood by and that our country stands for as a beacon of shining light and freedom for the rest of the world, that should he do what the Heritage Foundation said he was going to do in that Project 2025, that we were going to be in big trouble. And it's as bad as they promised and even a little bit worse. And it's been heartbreaking and personally very, very sad to watch.
I tell you, not everyone is happy with Rosie moving to Ireland. Let's hear from this local woman.
Rosie O'Donnell has just moved to Ireland. How do you feel about her coming to Ireland? I'm pretty disgusted, to be honest. I'm fully aware of the housing situation here, and for someone to come to our country to hide from the President of the United States, they're very not welcome here. It's absolutely disgusting.
Now to the University of North Carolina, where Republican Nancy Mace was being heckled by some dude in a dress demanding an apology. Listen here how his voice changes about halfway through this exchange.
Does your husband call you babe? I'm not really. Okay. Even better. I don't care. Okay. So I would like for you to apologize, but is your body right now? Second of all.
Oh, that was a dramatic change, wasn't it? And why did he pick up that pot plant? Was he going to water it or hurl it at someone? Now, let's check in with our friends at CNN who are now reporting on Joe Biden's cognitive decline. It's a little bit late now. Let's have a look at what they were claiming last year in the lead up to that debate with Donald Trump.
President Biden has spent days locked in intense preparation, surrounded by his closest advisors at Camp David. And our sources are telling us tonight that full mock debates are underway at the podium, under the lights. He's even watching tape to know exactly what he's going to see when he steps up to that lectern. His team shot a video during a walkthrough of the CNN studio.
Well, now they feel free to come out and talk about him because he lost. They backed the wrong horse in the race. And so, now they feel real comfortable talking trash about him. Yeah, that's about typical. Throw him under the bus after you used him during the 2020 election to get him in so you could change the course of the country. Hello. I see why Project 2025 looks attractive to some people, because it's basically America First, which was already Trump's agenda. I think even in 2016. I mean, I didn't pay that close attention to like the political sphere, but I think he was running on something very similar to that in 2016, and then 2020, 2024. I mean, so his stance hadn't changed. So whatever's going on with this Project 2025, I'm still not clear on it. I'll put it in the comments. Maybe I'll read it, some of it myself, but I don't really see a problem. But I guess if you're crazy like Rosie, you would see a problem. Anyway.
And as I reported while covering him at the White House, when Biden prepares, he does so incredibly intensively.
Oh, really, Caitlin? Incredibly intensively? Does that include poolside naps because he's got no idea what's happening? Let's hear what CNN is saying now that it doesn't really matter. And thanks to Maze Moore for this bit of gold.
So just how worried were Biden aides before the former president's disastrous debate last summer? According to Ron Klain, his chief of staff, his concerns could not be overstated. At his first meeting with Biden for debate prep, Quote, Klain was startled. He'd never seen Biden so exhausted and so out of it. Biden was unaware of what was happening in his own campaign. Halfway through the session, the president excused himself and went off to sit by the pool. Part about the pool, he went off, this is in the middle of debate prep, went off to the pool and he took a nap.
And let's hear from Pocahontas, Elizabeth Warren, who
Pocahontas.
claimed that Biden was as sharp as a tack. Now she thinks her lies about the president are some big joke.
Do you regret saying that President Biden had a mental acuity? He had a sharpness to him. You said that up until July of last year.
I'm glad this guy asked those questions because I'm sure she was one of the ones saying he was sharp as a tack, sharp as a tack, sharp as a tack. You know, they're talking points because that's basically what they do. And that he did fact check her on this. So I will say I appreciate that.
I said what I believe to be true. And you think he was as sharp as you?
I said I had not seen decline.
Let's go see. You know, if you just type it in, you can find any information. Let's see. Sharp as a tack. Let's see how many Democrats were saying this. Remember the time 300 days ago when Barack Obama, George Clooney, and Julia Roberts and Jimmy Kimmel hosted a fundraiser for Joe Biden in Hollywood and promised everyone he was sharp as a tack and ready to lead the country for another 4 years. That was pretty funny. Let's see here. The mainstream media wonders why nobody takes them seriously anymore. Sharp as a tack. Let's look at this. Hold on. I've watched this before, I think.
This version of Biden, intellectually, analytically, is the best Biden ever. He is sharp, intensely probing,
Schumer.
and detail-oriented and focused.
For example, we have 1,000 trillionaires in America.
This is a man who is sharp, who is on top of his game, who knows what's going on.
He's smart. He's on his game. His mental acuity is great.
This is a very sharp president.
Nancy Pelosi.
And the people that I've talked to say he's as sharp as a tack. He's fine. They say he's sharp. There's not a problem. He was sharp. He was sharper than anyone I've spoken to.
The president is sharp and he is tireless. He is sharp.
As sharp as ever. And he's fine. All this right-wing propaganda that his mental acuity is declined is wrong.
His brain is good. He's still great.
He is sharp in meetings. I believe the people who say that behind.
So that's basically a compilation. I've seen this one before. And then let's see, the 24/7 propaganda media and politicians in DC tried to convince us Biden was sharp as a tack. Cannibal ate my uncle. Remember when he said that? I think it was the New Guinea people or something like that, or Tanzanian, something. Sharp as a tack. I'll leave this compilation here. And that's probably the same one like earlier. Look at him. Look at this. Yeah. And then just remember they told us Biden was sharp as a tack. Dementia, you know the thing. Yeah. Here she is. Getting fact checked. But anyway, let's go back over here. Lefty's losing it. I just want to bring receipts.
Can you believe that? That interviewer, Sam Fragoso, did a fantastic job there.
Yes.
These people really are beneath contempt. Listen to Pocahontas here.
Look, he was sharp. He was on his feet. I saw him. Live event. I had meetings with him a couple of times.
Senator, on his feet is not praise. He can speak in sentences. Is
not praise.
Right. Fair enough. Fair enough.
Well, remember after the debate, what his wife said, let's go back over here. She's like, you answered all the questions. After debate or Trump. Debate. Let's see. Let's see. Just snapped. Let's see where she said something about. Yeah. Hold on. You answer all the questions. Let me see. Okay, remember this after the debate. Joe, you did such a great job answering every question. You knew all the facts. Joe Biden is a monster. That's what this person is saying here.
Joe, you did such a great job. You answered every question. You knew all the. Let me ask the crowd, what did Trump do? Yes. Joe, you did.
Whatever. Sorry, I was gonna say something mean. I'll try not to. What a monster, like the other person said.
Now, after that dinner at the White House, Lefty luminary Bill Maher is doing his best to redeem himself with the loony mob who are outraged that this ardent Trump hater would break bread with the president and then give an honest appraisal of what happened during that dinner. But as Maher said, he was not going to stop criticising the president or the VP, it seems.
We have a constitutional crisis. Today, Melania had a jacket that said, I'm starting to care. And not just Trump, J.D. Vance, our vice president, he's in Rome. You know, he's a convert, a recent convert to Catholicism. I know he's married to a Hindu, goes right to the Catholics. I don't know what that says.
I don't know if y'all have seen it, but Bill Maher actually had Charlie Kirk on. Let me see. Bill Maher on his podcast. Charlie Kirk, yeah. Charlie Kirk. So the Club Random Podcast, I think is what it's called. Charlie Kirk educates Bill Maher on Christianity. Love it. Charlie Kirk tells Bill Maher that colleges need to be burned to the ground, metaphorically. Well, probably reorganized. Let's see. Just forced to delete my thread on Charlie Kirk's appearance. Flagged for violating X rules. This is straight up censorship, and it should terrify anyone who values free speech. Community knows, contributor, enterprising Desert Raven. Oh, whatever. Let's see. What started as a typical podcast in Club Random quickly turned into something way more revealing. Charlie Kirk is an educator, while Bill Maher is a comedian. Well, Bill Maher is just very critical of everything. I mean, he's just a liberal. I don't know what else you can say. And Charlie Kirk is obviously not. So you're going to have a little bit of a clash. They talked about, let me see, they talked about Christianity, beat that to death. Because obviously you're not going to change somebody. You can talk to them about it. That doesn't mean it's going to change their mind on it. It says new Bill Maher and Charlie Kirk agreed Dems dooming themselves by refusing to concede that biological men shouldn't compete in women's sports. Of all the low-lying fruit that the Democrats just like hand the Republicans to win election, that's the one. It's so funny. I joked around with my team the other day. I said, are they really going to just let us win every national election on this? No men in female sports. Like they can't surrender on this one issue. Amar says it's so ridiculous. You let Gavin Newsom, or you lost Gavin Newsom on this. Okay, take that as a hint, right? But I don't really take Gavin Newsom's stance, his new stance on this. I think he realized it lost them the election. I think they'll do anything to get power and they don't care really about anything else. So they know that they have to backtrack on some of the far woke stuff, but they're actually doubling down. I don't know if y'all have heard about the dark woke. I've watched something earlier and I was like, oh my goodness. So that's why they're doing all the cussing and carrying on. I don't know if y'all have noticed they do a lot more cussing when they're in interviews and speeches and hearings and like anyway, if you watch them, the Democrats, they're like losing touch with everyday voters even more. They're just doubling down on the lunacy, but I've also put that in other videos too. But anyway, so yeah, these lefties are really trying to continue with the woke stuff, and it's like that's what Americans voted against. They like wholeheartedly rejected it. But anyway, I mean, Bill Maher's not like coming over to MAGA. He's still a liberal, but he's at least acknowledging that the party has got some issues, and they're just going to continue to lose elections with this stuff going on. But that's good for us.
He converted to Catholicism because he heard priests like little pricks. So
I'm not sure that's going to be enough to stop the hit pieces and the mockery from the likes of Larry David, who lampooned Maher with this piece in the New York Times entitled My Dinner with Adolf. In it, David wrote, here I was, prepared to meet Hitler, the one I'd seen and heard, the public Hitler, but this private Hitler was a completely different animal. Joining me now is Newsweek Senior Editor-at-Large and Article 3 Project Senior Counsel, Josh Hammer. Josh, how disappointing to see this unfunny mess from a comedy great like Larry David.
Well, I wish I could say it were surprising, Rita. It's not even remotely surprising. Larry David has one of the most notorious cases of Trump derangement syndrome from sea to signing C here in the United States. It's worth noting that since October 7th and the horrific tragedy in Israel there, so Jerry Seinfeld and Larry David co-created Seinfeld, the sitcom here back in the 1990s there. Jerry Seinfeld, to his credit, has actually been very outspoken against the raging pro-Hamas mobs. Larry David has not said a single word. And this is a man who, it's actually much more than just that one issue for him. I heard once upon a time a story from Alan Dershowitz, of all people, another man who has heterodox political views. But apparently Larry David saw Alan Dershowitz at a supermarket or a local convenience store in Martha's Vineyard, where I guess they both have a house. And Larry David just started yelling at the top of his lungs at Alan Dershowitz for having the temerity to represent Donald Trump in his impeachment proceedings back in 2020 there. I mean, Larry David, this is not a fun thing for me to say. I actually love Curb Your Enthusiasm. I think Larry David genuinely is a funny person when he wants to be a funny person, but as is too often the case, whether it's Larry David, whether it's Robert De Niro, whether it's any of these other celebrities who are very good when they stay in their lane, but they have a very nasty habit of getting outside their lane. Frankly, Rita, between me and you, I happen to be a huge proponent of the old Laura Ingraham line, which was said in a very different context about LeBron James, of shut up and dribble. So in this particular case, to Larry David, I would say, shut up and just tell some funny jokes.
He's almost become a caricature of his character on Curb Your Enthusiasm. And I've got to say, I loved Curb so much, but the last couple of seasons, it did kind of jump the shark a little bit. Still had a few good moments, but there's just a lot of weaker moments. Well, you know what? No one can be in peak condition throughout their comedy career, and I guess Larry David is an example of that. But that piece was just so pitiful, Josh. I mean, and so cliched to go to a Hitler analogy. Really? I mean, like, it's just so
it loses its meaning after a while.
I don't know. I thought he was above that. Now, former White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki has earned the title of Captain Obvious by admitting that, well, something everybody knew, that MSNBC is hopelessly biased to the left, whether it's opinion programs or news reporting. She said in a recent podcast that when we talk about Trump, it's typically not going to be positive. I don't think anybody watching expects it to be positive, right? Well, no, we don't. But I do wonder if MSNBC viewers do think they're getting impartial news reporting. Opinion is opinion, but you would hope that when you're reporting something as a journalist, you can at least pretend to be unbiased and straight down the line.
So MSNBC's ratings here are absolutely positively horrific. It was really not that long ago, actually, that Elon Musk was making some waves by talking about potentially purchasing MSNBC, which I would be the first to very strongly encourage him to do. Elon, if you're still considering it, I think this would be a wonderful idea, actually. But their ratings have been quite pitiful for a number of years now. They're somewhat of a fraction of the ratings of CNN, which are themselves just a tiny, tiny fraction of Fox News, which totally dominates cable news here in the United States there. I mean, Jen Psaki's saying the obvious part out loud. Here's what I will say, though, speaking of Fox News. Fox News primetime lineup here, Laura Ingraham, Sean Hannity, folks like that. Say what you will, but for most of the daytime programming on Fox News, you're getting straight news here in the United States there. MSNBC, I'm not aware of a single hour of the day. I'm not aware of a single hour of the day when you're getting anything other than just straight DNC,
propaganda.
Democratic National Committee talking points,
Yes.
straight up propaganda there. I mean, the fact that they have someone like Jen Psaki on the payroll hosting a show basically says everything you need to know. Frankly, Rita, actually, I think back to Mehdi Hassan, who was actually let go of MSNBC over the past year and a half or so. Man, does that say a lot about Mehdi Hassan, actually, that he was too far left too often in Cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs land and La La Land, that even MSNBC felt the need to let him go there. But Jen Psaki, as a former Biden spokesperson, is basically right at home there. And the viewers at this point, she's right, they expect that there, but they're being fed a delusion of lies on a day-in basis there. It's not good for them. It's not good for the country. It's not good for anyone.
No, and the Democrats on MSNBC and elsewhere have gone from defending this so-called Maryland dad, the MS-13 gangbanger who was in the country illegally, is now being deported to El Salvador. They've gone from defending him, Josh, to now lionizing him. A number of Democrats have traveled to El Salvador to try to meet with him, advocate on his behalf, and their supporters, the Democrat voters, are posting content like this.
Kilmar Abrego Garcia will be coming home. I'm so happy for you and your child and your family and your friends and your community. And I'm so happy for our country. You are the sprinkle of good news right now in this country. So you're a symbol, brother.
The sprinkle
Oh my
of good
God.
news, Josh, a symbol.
What the hell is wrong with these people?
It's so crazy that I almost think it must be a parody, but then I see Democrats, elected Democrats, saying as much as they travel to South America to try to bring this miscreant back into the
ridiculous.
country.
Yeah, so with Kilmar Abrego Garcia, we're talking here, let's be clear, not just about an illegal alien, not just someone who was found to have credible affiliations with MS-13, one of the most murderous transnational gangs in the entire Western Hemisphere. He also, his wife or his ex-wife, I forgot the exact relation, also filed for a restraining order because he was a domestic abuser there.
Yeah.
So, Mr. All-American there. I mean, seriously.
Hang on, I think I had something about that from yesterday. Let me see if I can pull it up in my pictures. Well, it's gonna work. I think I had like the screenshot of it. No. Photos. Well. Well, let's see. I guess not. Camera roll. Oh, this thing, I think. It says screenshots. Okay, well. Just so we pull it up. Because I thought I pulled it up yesterday. No, difference. This thing. So this was from Libs of TikTok. And this was a document basically about the guy being picked up. Oh, this says Kilmar Armando Abrego Garcia, subjects have been identified as an member and active of MS-13. This was from 3/28 of 2019. On March 28, 2019, the Prince George County Police Gang Unit made contact with the subject or suspected illegal aliens whom they had validated as an active MS-13 gang member. So, if you wanted to, you could go out there and look for the documents. But I know that's not where people are. They want to be weaponizing their empathy and put their back the wrong horse again, just like what they did with the damn election with Joe Biden, or trying to get Joe Biden
like the way
in there.
this person describes Kilmar Borrego Garcia, the way that MSNBC and Jen Psaki described him, Mr. Maryland man, you would think he's out there strapping his white T-shirt and his jeans with the white picket fence, the cat, the dog, the wife, the kids. He's Mr. All-American, right? He's nothing like that. He's not an American citizen. He's a miscreant. He's a thug. He's a criminal. He's tied to MS-13, and he's back now where he belongs. But what does it say about the Democrats that they go to the mattresses for someone like Kilmar Borrego Garcia? They go to the mattresses for people like Mahmoud Khalil, the Hamas-sympathizing Syrian or Algerian national who was recently sent packing, or at least is in the process of going packing because of his involvement with the Columbia University pro-Hamas riots last spring there. They love these people there. The left consistently takes these 80-20 or 90-10 issues on the wrong side of the ledger, Rita. Sometimes I just scratch my head and I look at clips like this. I look at this stunt like Chris Von Holland, the dimwitted senator from Maryland, flying down to El Salvador on the taxpayer dime, visiting this miscreant in Nayib Bukele's maximum security prison there. I mean, literally, who is the market for this? Like, literally, what is the constituent? And I sometimes just throw my hands up, Rita. Sometimes I just say I have no idea what they're trying to do. I really don't.
Yeah.
Who's the target market? I guess MSNBC's ever diminishing number of viewers, because the deportation policy remains enormously popular, and it's probably going to get even more popular with this new information. The policy has seen a 655% spike in arrests of terrorists in the US, including one of India's most wanted. New Homeland Security data obtained by the New York Post shows the Trump administration's mass deportation raids have nabbed more than 200 known or suspected terrorists since January, including the man accused of masterminding a grenade attack in India who has ties to a US-designated terrorist organisation in Pakistan. Josh, these cases do not get much media attention, unlike the Maryland dad, but the deportation plan remains popular with Americans, particularly Trump voters.
Oh, yeah, it's overwhelmingly popular. I mean, Donald Trump's immigration agenda, do not let the New York Times or MSNBC delude you into thinking anything to the contrary. It is actually wildly popular. The national polling reflects this, by the way. I mean, let's take Donald Trump's maybe signature campaign promise, which is to deport all of the illegal aliens here. So
we voted for it.
I started following this data, call it 13, 14 years ago or so, around the time that I was getting ready to start law school here in the United States. That was a losing issue for Republicans. For Republicans who took the maximal hawkish position on immigration that we were going to deport all illegal aliens, you had roughly 30 to 35% towards 2012, 2013, around then. You look now at the data, well over 60%, depends on the poll, but typically well over 60% of Americans now say that they support deporting all illegal aliens from this country. That is a veritable sea change. That's a massive, massive sea change here on the issue of illegal immigration here. And the data basically speak for itself, Reed. Ever since this administration got started there, encounters between illegal aliens and Customs and Border Protection at the southern border are dramatically down there. Gotaways, which are basically illegal aliens who show up between ports of entry, manage to escape into the American interior. Those numbers are way down as well there. All of it has to do from the top guy on down. It has to do with Donald Trump. It has to do with Stephen Miller, the exceptional deputy White House chief of staff in charge of immigration policy. It has to do with Tom Homan, the border czar, who was just frankly fantastic. He's just a magnificent, one of the unheralded, unsung heroes of this administration there. So from soup to nuts, the immigration agenda is actually working very, very well in terms of political popularity. Now, the courts are doing their darndest. They're doing their darndest here to gum up the works. And that's basically the best tool that the anti-Trump resistance has there. They're not going to let go of that anytime soon there. That's a whole nother can of worms. But other than the whole judicial issue there, it's working quite well, I would say, from an Article 2 presidential power perspective.
Now, the tariff wars are continuing there and continuing to impact the stock market. Donald Trump has indicated today that he is going to reduce the tariffs on China ultimately. Josh, it's interesting to see so many on the left side with China, side with the Chinese Communist Party that kills dissidents, enslaves the Uyghurs. It's the brutal regime that is a clear and present danger to the West. And you wrote about President Trump and his life's work culminating with this confrontation with China. Tell me why you argue America's trade war with China has to happen and why this rogue superpower, as you call them, must be crushed.
Well, China has been ripping the crap out of the United States for decades on end. And Donald Trump, to his great credit, has been at the tip of the spear of pointing this out time and time and time again. Even as elites of both parties here in the United States continue to issue all these platitudes about how welcoming China into the Western economies would somehow be better for all parties involved here. Back in the Bush administration in the early 2000s, Republicans and Democrats alike both welcomed China into the World Trade Organization. It has not worked out well. It has not worked out well at all. China routinely pilfers American intellectual property and trade secrets simply as a cost of doing business there. Then they basically steal that intellectual property. They illegally subsidize it in violation of World Trade Organization rules, and then export them for dumping in foreign markets well below market value there. This is a rogue country on the geopolitical chessboard as well. Look at how they're siding with Vladimir Putin in Ukraine, how they're routinely siding with Iran, North Korea, Venezuela, Cuba. I live in South Florida. China is very, very cozy with Cuba, just 90 miles off our shore. They are controlling large swaths of the Panama Canal. They have a deep water port in Peru. This is the threat. I mean, we have literally given our civilizational foe, our geopolitical foe, we've literally given them the rope with which to hang ourselves.
And the only reason why Democrats are opposing all the tariffs is because Donald Trump is doing it. Every single one of them, Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, they all were talking about tariffs back in the 90s, 2000s. So it's kind of like very hypocritical that they're jumping on this bandwagon now. But anyway, that's the end of that. My video cut off at the end again. So that's why I'm just like finishing this up right now. But anyway, I'll talk to y'all later. Like, share, and subscribe. See y'all. Have a good afternoon. Bye.